Well, what we've had in Syria since 2011 is what started as a peaceful uprising against the President Bashar al-Assad that was inspired by revolutions in Tunisia and Egypt, has gradually turned into a quite violent civil war. From a military perspective, it's highly unlikely that either side can win. This is now a stalemate. The regime has taken back some areas, but it doesn't have the capacity to reconquer the whole country, whilst the opposition is fragmented, divided, and not very well armed, and can't possibly defeat the regime. So some kind of protracted stalemate is highly likely. So unfortunately, I think that unless something changes in the next couple of years, Syria is probably destined to become a failed state on the doorstep of Europe. A lot of British and European Muslims have been travelling over to Syria to fight with those rebel groups. People are worried that sort of idealistic young men are going over there, becoming radicalised, and will come back and launch terror attacks at home, rather like the 7/7 bombings of 2005. At the moment, there are 2.5 million refugees outside of Syria and 6.5 million refugees inside Syria. That's the entire population of London that are currently displaced from their homes. And half of those, 4 million, are children. Now, for the British government to say that we, as a Western developed state with a population of 60 million, can only take 500 of those refugees strikes me as unrealistic and playing politics with people's lives. What we're basically saying is that we're not interested in refugees that come from that part of the world. You know, in contrast, other countries such as Germany have taken 10,000 refugees, which means people in those countries are going to think Germany is actually a friend to the region, whilst Britain, which has been actively involved in the conflict, they have been sending weapons to the opposition, they have been fueling this conflict, are not willing to actually pay the political consequences of that and accept the victims of that conflict on their doorstep. It makes us look incredibly selfish, incredibly narrow-minded, and incredibly myopic on this subject. It's possible that we might see a slow transition away from conflict. However, we have not seen that kind of commitment from the West so far. I think that the future for Syria looks like more civil war. Unless the different international actors that are involved in this conflict are willing to sit down and negotiate and actually offer real concessions. In the past, in the 2000s, America was the dominant power in the region. We saw its military influence in places like Iraq and Afghanistan, and it was therefore able to dictate terms. I think that since the withdrawal of Iraq, and on top of that the international financial crisis, the United States is far less willing to commit itself to Middle Eastern conflicts, such as the Syria crisis. So I think what we're seeing now is a shift from the unipolar Middle East, which was dominated by the United States, to a more multipolar Middle East, where different actors and different states will compete with one another in different arenas. At this moment, that arena is Syria, but in the future it could well be Lebanon, Iraq, or other parts of the region.